Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody who's joined us here on this program tonight. We thank you for being here. My name is Ron Tyler. We've been doing this broadcast now for 5 years. I've been talking about earthquakes, all kinds of disasters, to include fires, floods, tornadoes, hurricanes, shootings, explosions, almost anything that you can think of that affects human beings, we talk about here on the Emergency Management Associates program tonight. We're going to talk about earthquakes tonight. However, I told you we were going to first talk about what was going on over in the Pacific Northwest. That's not going to be tonight because nothing is happening other than usual over in the Pacific Northwest. We're getting slow slip earthquakes, minor tremors, and earthquakes up and down the entire coast of North America, from Canada south into Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. Slow slip earthquakes all the way up and down the coast. I want to mention that because nobody else is. Nobody understands earthquakes like the Emergency Management Associates. We've been talking about it. We've been studying it. I've been broadcasting it for 5 years now. Folks, we have a lot to talk about. I want to first talk about something that I felt is important for everybody to know about tonight. I found out some information. Iceland has 32 active volcanoes with an average eruption every 4 to 5 years. But since 2021, the frequency's been closer to every 12 months. Average eruption in Iceland of a volcano is every 4 to 5 years, but during the past 3 years, since 2021, the frequency's been closer to every 12 months. The main active volcanoes run along a curved central line from northeast to southwest. This is along the mid-Atlantic fault line that we've been talking about. Okay? Iceland also experiences earthquakes due to its position on the mid-Atlantic fault ridge. On the mid-Atlantic ridge, that great big huge fault line that runs from the southern part of the Atlantic Ocean over in the South Sandwich Islands and runs north past Iceland up to the North Pole. Okay? Past Svalbard, past everything to the North Pole. Okay? Due to its position in the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, Iceland, where the Eurasian and North American tectonic plates meet. Okay? The Reykjanes Peninsula that we've been talking about for so very long, the southeastern part of Iceland is called the Reykjanes Peninsula. That is where Grindavik is. About 1/4, well, not even that. 1/3 of the way north from the southern tip of the Reykjanes Peninsula, we get to Grindavik. November 7th, Grindavik, like we've been talking about, has had earthquakes. Earthquakes enough to open up huge fissures and sinkholes all over Grindavik. They lost a member of their city when he went down into one of the fissures with 2 other men who also were in a cage suspended by a crane, and they were trying to fill in that fissure. Great big huge long fissure in a roadway in Grindavik. He was down there tamping earth down when all of a sudden the earth swallowed him up. I'm not going to talk any more about that in respect for his family. He had some children and a fiancée he was planning on marrying. Given that, they have now been filling in the holes, the sinkholes, and the fissures that opened up in November. However, the area is still experiencing some earthquakes. As I said the other day, 14 homes have been completely destroyed by earthquakes. They had to be declared uninhabitable. Insurance companies are now making sure that residents of Greenvik have the option to move away from Greenvik and get paid by the insurance company to total out their home, so they can take the money and move elsewhere around Iceland. Some of them have done that, okay? But Iceland is open. Greenvik is open. The only restrictions on entering Greenvik, you must be a citizen, a resident of Greenvik. 2, you must be able to work there as well. You either work and reside there or you can't come in. Tourists are not allowed to go into Greenvik at all. No tourists into Greenvik at all. Okay? That's out of the question. I want to emphasize this because we need to respect those people in Greenvik. Most of those people have lived there for tens of years. 30, 40, 50, 70 years. We have to respect them. Back in January, a fissure opened up just north of Greenvik. A very long volcanic fissure opened up, close to 2 miles long. That fissure dumped lava over on the landscape just north of Greenvik. It stopped. Another smaller fissure opened up closer to Greenvik. That put lava into Greenvik. 3 homes were destroyed by that lava. It was stopped finally. It took about a week for that lava to completely stop. Some of that lava is still outgassing, meaning sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide is outgassing from that lava field. Since then, February and March both saw fissures opened up. Those fissures opened up and also spilled more lava out of those fissures and craters. Okay? Those fissures and craters were northwest of Greenvik. Greenvik was not in any danger. After the January seismic event and volcanic event, the authorities built an earthen wall around Greenvik and an earthen wall around the Svartsengi power plant that we've talked about, and also around the Blue Lagoon Spa. The Blue Lagoon Spa was just north of the Svartsengi power plant. Okay? Now, earlier this week, the Blue Lagoon Spa opened up again. Well, guess what? Yesterday they had to close the Blue Lagoon Spa again because the sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide from the present lava eruption that has been ongoing now for close to 4 weeks was spewing so much lava out of it that the sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide levels were blowing in the breeze and blowing down to towards the Svartsengi power plant and also the Blue Lagoon Spa. So they had to close the Blue Lagoon Spa again. Iceland tourism is starting to take a hit in regards to financial problems because they can't get people into the Blue Lagoon Spa. Okay? Now, I think I have a video keyed up to talk about this. I want to show you this. I think it's important for you to realize what's going on there. We have people from Iceland monitoring this channel. I want to make sure everybody knows what's going on. Okay, let me show you this film. Hold on a second, I've got to find it. Here it is. in the lava area. Sulfur dioxide is over in the lava area. Okay, I want to make sure everybody realizes what's going on here. Okay, I think it's important. The sulfur dioxide gases and the carbon dioxide gases have built up inside the molten magma down inside the earth. And all of those gases are forcing that lava up into a fountaining type of event, throwing that lava high in the air. And as you saw there, guys, the lava was pouring out of that crater. There's only one crater over in Iceland right now that's still spewing lava. Huge amounts of lava now spewed out of that crater, and it's still going on. We don't know right now how long this crater will continue to spill lava out of it. This is the longest eruption in written history of Iceland. This is the longest active eruption in Iceland written history, and it's still ongoing. And we're going to continue to cover it just as long as it lasts, because people need to know about it. People's lives are being affected by it. Okay? The Reykjanes Peninsula is that thin peninsula that runs out of the Atlantic Ocean to the south and goes up towards the mainland of Iceland. Okay? The Reykjanes Peninsula. It's located in the southwestern part of Iceland. The Reykjanes Peninsula has entered a new volcanic cycle after a period of approximately 800 years of relative inactivity. Relative inactivity. Now, there is a volcano that is presently erupting since March 16th. And I know I'm probably going to butcher the name of this, but I'm going to try to pronounce it for you. Sunjungkog Igar volcano. Sunjungkag Sunjungkog Igar. The volcano's been erupting since March 16th this year. This is marking the fourth eruption in the area since December. The Icelandic Met Office, the IMO, said this eruption is the largest since 2021. A global team of geologists are meticulously monitoring the area. A team of geologists, not just from the Icelandic Met Office, but from all over the world, including the United States Geological Survey is also there, helping provide some insight from other volcanic activity happening around the world. A team of geologists from all over the world is there. Not just at the Met Office, but out in the field, monitoring what these volcanoes have been doing and monitoring the landscape. They have meters measuring the gas that is outgassing from the lava fields that have erupted in the past 5 months. Okay? They're backed by Iceland's advanced, and I want to say advanced, volcanic preparedness and real-time surveillance system. Iceland, because it is an island of ever-changing volcanic regularities or irregularities, they have probably one of the greatest teams of preparedness experts in the world when it comes to volcanic actions helping protect their people. And they continue to exercise volcanic preparedness in Iceland more than any other country around the world. And they have real-time surveillance systems with field cams all over the areas that are active with volcanic activity. So this is very wonderful to hear from Iceland. Okay? It's a very wonderful thing to hear from Iceland because they are very prepared. Okay? We talk about preparedness on this channel a lot. That's why we're still talking about Iceland. Okay? They're still upping the height of those earthen walls to protect the Svartsengi power plant and the Blue Lagoon and Grindavik. If I haven't mentioned it before, which I think I have, they're also building earthen wall over around the eastern side of Reykjavik, trying to protect the capital city of Reykjavik just in case there is another eruption closer to the capital city. There's also a small power plant east of Reykjavik as well. They are erecting an earthen wall around that small, tiny power plant to also help protect it. The power plant over in the Svartsengi area and that power plant over just east of Reykjavik are the power plants that supply Iceland with electricity and hot water. Hot water, not just for their drinking and their bathing capabilities and their cooking capabilities, but the hot water from the volcanic system also heats their homes. So they're wanting to make sure that they can still protect the population of Iceland. That's why they're going to these extra lengths to make sure that the power plants are protected and that the citizens of Iceland are also protected. Like I said at the very beginning of this show, we initially, as of earlier this week and last night, we were going to be talking about the Pacific Northwest and the volcanoes and the slow slip earthquakes in the Pacific Northwest. Southwestern Canada, Washington, Oregon, all the way down to Northern California. Nothing has changed since we talked about them on Monday. Nothing has changed. The volcanoes are still getting ready to erupt, meaning Rainier, Helens, and also Mount Hood. Mount Hood is in a lesser mode than Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier. But those three volcanoes in particular are having issues in that those volcanoes are getting ready. They are getting ready. A year and a half ago, the southern side of Mount Hood, the timberline side of Mount Hood, where government camp is, if you guys have seen the map at Mount Hood. Mount Hood on the southern side had a bunch of earthquakes. In that, on that particular Sunday, USGS had issued a volcanic alert. They had issued a volcanic alert at Mount Hood, saying that there was going to be a possibility of Mount Hood erupting. There was 125 earthquakes within a 24-hour period at Mount Hood. Since that time, the seismic activity has toned itself down. Sometimes it looked like it was ramping back up, but it's toned itself down again. We don't believe there is an imminent opportunity for Mount Hood to erupt. However, that is the case for Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier. There's enough volcanic activity happening, we need to keep an eye on it. Because USGS is not talking about it, they're not talking about Rainier or Mount St. Helens. Nothing. We showed you on Monday the volcanic activity happening. We showed the HHN seismogram channel, showing what they call the VLF wave activity, the very low frequency waves that the magma generates when it's entering the volcano. There is a lot of VLF wave activity, which suggests that those volcanoes are upping the ante in terms of getting ready to erupt. So we're keeping a close eye on that, but so far nothing has changed. If something were to happen, we will come on the air and tell you about it. Right now, it's not a big deal. The thing that is a big deal, I want to talk about tonight. I want to play a video by NCWQ Earthquake and Disasters Explorer, because she put out a video earlier today that's very accurate. It is very, very accurate. I want to play the audio for you right now just to give you an idea what is going on. Okay? This is in California. This is in California, guys. Everyone needs to hear this. Go ahead, Rebecca.
San Andreas fault is imminent despite odd attenuation parameters. So I got an article for you guys. It comes from phys.org, and it says seismologists suspect earthquake on San Andreas fault is imminent despite odd attenuation parameters. Says a trio of seismologists affiliated with Instituto Nacional de Geofísica and Volcanologia, the Berkeley Seismology Laboratory, University of California. Berkeley reports that a part of the San Andreas Fault at ParkField is not producing signals that would suggest an earthquake is going to happen anytime soon, but they assert there are factors that suggest otherwise. The paper, authored by Lucia Malaginini, Robert Nadeau, and Tom Parsons, is published in the journal Frontiers in Earth Science. The part of the San Andreas Fault located near ParkField, California, offers scientists who study earthquakes a unique opportunity. Just north of ParkField, two major plates creep against one another at a constant rate. South of ParkField, on the other hand, the fault is locked. Because of this, earthquakes happen there in a pattern roughly every 22 years. That allows researchers to gather seismic data before, during, and after a quake. Such quakes are almost always the same magnitude as well, approximately 6 or slightly higher. The last quake to happen at the site occurred in 2004, which suggests a quake should be coming in the next couple of years. But there is a problem. Seismic activity related to the fault does not indicate any signs of an earthquake. Usually they note low-frequency waves attenuate prior to a quake, while high-frequency waves increase. But there is no sign of either right now. The research team notes that the last earthquake to occur in the area was approximately 14 years late. But that was because other earthquakes occurred in close enough proximity to take the pressure off ParkField. That is not the case this time around. Still, the researchers believe a quake is going to happen soon because of other factors. These include pressure in nearby parts of the fault that could lead to an earthquake, but with a somewhat displaced epicenter. So let's do this real quick. I'm going to show you all where the ParkField fault is if you don't know already. So we're going to open this up, and I'm going to find the ParkField fault. Let's go along here and see if I can find the ParkField fault. Let's look it up here. I'm assuming that it's going to be, let's see where ParkField is, and then we'll probably find the fault there. Don't think that that would be it. That's the San Andreas. So it could be just talking about this area here. Okay, it says, these include pressure in nearby parts of the fault that lead to an earthquake, but with a somewhat displaced epicenter. The researchers do not have high confidence in their readings, thus they are not going to be making any formal predictions. Instead, they suggest, as is always the case with earthquakes, everyone will just have to wait and see what happens in this case, though waiting is not a problem. Hardly anyone lives in the area. So that is the article, and I'm curious where the ParkField fault is. I do know that it should be here somewhere.
I located the ParkField fault here. Okay? I put up a map here for all of you to see. Rebecca said she could not find ParkField itself. I did. Okay? I was going to show you a USGS map, and I don't know where my went. But this is just as good. Okay? This is where ParkField is located. Okay? Right along the San Andreas Fault here. Okay? As Rebecca said, the scientists are very worried that the San Andreas Fault around ParkField is not showing the signs that it usually does right before a earthquake in Southern California. But the scientists have said that it is ready to go and it's imminent. We've talked about the San Andreas Fault before in Southern California. Okay? From Santa Barbara south to the Mexican border. The San Andreas Fault. Okay? ParkField is imminent. Okay? They've been having 1.1, 1.7, 2.7, even 3.5 earthquakes here. Okay? Unreal. Okay, you guys told me to unmute myself. I'm sorry. Okay, I unmuted myself. I'm sorry about that. I found this earthquake map of California. Rebecca said she couldn't find it for this broadcast. I did find it. I had a map showing the USGS map of ParkField and going up towards San Francisco Bay. Okay, I'm showing you that now. Okay, we found ParkField. ParkField has been having minor tremors, 1.2, 1.7, 1.5, etc. They've also had some 2.5, 2.7 minor earthquakes. They've also had a 3.5 earthquake. A 3.5 earthquake. Now, they've not been having as much tremor activity and other seismic activity as they usually have at ParkField that would show the activity prior to a outburst of seismic activity in Southern California. But the scientists now are saying it's going to happen and it's imminent. It is going to happen very soon. Very, very soon. That's why we're showing this tonight. Okay? You see where Santa Cruz is up there to the north? Just to the south there is Monterey Bay. Okay, Monterey Bay. Just south of Monterey Bay we have the Pinnacles. Okay? The Pinnacles are a formation of, let's put it this way, it's a hilly area that was made by earthquake movement, seismic movement along the San Andreas Fault. Okay? Then south of the Pinnacles, we come down here to ParkField. ParkField is the earthquake capital of California. Okay? The earthquake capital of California. More earthquakes happen in ParkField than anywhere else. Okay? Now, California has to be on alert. The scientists have now put out that California is on alert as a San Andreas Fault hints at a quake. Now, in the past, the San Andreas Fault would have a 6.0 to 7.5 magnitude earthquake. A 6.0 is a very strong quake. A 7.0 to a 7.0 to a 10.0 are considered to be a major earthquake. So we could have between a very strong 6 all the way up to a major 7.0, 7.5 earthquake. Okay? It's time. It's time, guys. It's going to happen. Now, I want to give you some other information, because that wonderful lady that used to work for USGS that now works in stage and theater productions in Los Angeles, her name's Lucy Jones. Lucy Jones came out with a statement today denying this happens. Lucy Jones is saying it does not happen. And it's not going to happen. Isn't that interesting? She says it's not going to happen. Why? I'm going to read you her statement in just a minute. I'm loading one other picture up here to show you before I go to that statement. So just bear with me for just a minute. Okay, folks, this is a monument that USGS and the state of California erected over in ParkField, California. This shows the movement of Earth here in ParkField. The Earth movement here from the North American plate to the east and the Pacific plate on the west. Earth movement per year averages 1 to 4 inches per year. Earth movement of the Pacific plate underneath the North American plate here on the west coast averages 1 to 4 inches per year. Okay? I wanted to vividly show you what has happened over the years there in ParkField. Okay? This monument was erected in 1995. So, in the past 30 years, the Earth has moved this far. And it continues to move. It continues to move. I'll let me go to what good old Lucy Jones has said in regard to the article from the scientists, because Lucy Jones disagrees with the study. She says, quote, "Just because something is seen before one quake doesn't make that a warning." One quake, she says. One quake. It is not just one quake, Lucy. Get your head out of your butt. I have no respect for Lucy Jones. She says, you know what has happened within 24 hours of every big quake we've ever seen? The sun has risen. She jokingly said the sun has risen. Isn't that something? Yes, the sun comes up every day. But the scientists are saying that because of the activity over at ParkField and up and down the fault north to south, that there is a imminent danger of a earthquake, a major earthquake along the San Andreas Fault in Southern California. She says while the ParkField area could experience quakes around a magnitude 6, its remote location means the chances of impacting people or property is low. Impacting people or property is low. Lucy Jones, the study indicates that it is Southern California, not ParkField. It is Southern California that the scientists are putting out the imminent warning for an earthquake of epic proportions. Yes, ParkField has been having a lot of minor tremors and minor earthquakes, but it's been very quiet now for some time. The scientists are worried because it's been quiet that the history of earthquakes in Southern California has happened. It's past due. The very large to major earthquake is past due. And Lucy Jones is trying to poo-poo it. She says she disagrees with this study. Jokingly saying this, you know what has happened within 24 hours of every big quake we've ever seen? The sun has risen. Isn't that just like a dirtbag? I call Lucy Jones a dirtbag. Why? Why am I resorting to this language? I am going to go back to 2019. Ridgecrest happened. The Ridgecrest earthquake that they said, well, let me back before the major quake happened. On July 3rd, 2019, two 6.9 earthquakes happened over in Ridgecrest. One 6.9 was taken down. One 6.9 was taken down. The other, guess what happened? The other was degraded to a 6.4. One 6.9 earthquake was taken down, and the second one was downgraded to a 6.4. The next day, we had the 7.1 earthquake, and now scientists are saying it may have been larger than that. The two 6.9 earthquakes were separate, distinct earthquakes with separate, distinct locations, and USGS denied that two earthquakes hit. On July 4th, after the 7.1 hit in Ridgecrest, a reporter at a news conference asked Lucy Jones why they don't report all the earthquakes and show all the earthquakes on the USGS map. Lucy Jones did not even stop to think about it. What her statement was is there's no room on the map for it. I call BS about that as well. I call BS about that. There was plenty of room for more earthquakes on the USGS map, but USGS, as we all see now, does not put up all the earthquakes. They have also said on their own website they have no responsibility to report all the earthquakes. I say poo-poo on that as well. The United States Geological Survey has every responsibility to report what's going on. The USGS has a responsibility to protect people's lives. To protect people's lives. And in not reporting earthquakes, they're not protecting anybody. I have a problem with that. I have real issues with the agency saying they're not going to post every earthquake, and they don't. They don't post every earthquake here in the United States and the other areas of the United States, meaning Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Guam, and other territories, the Mariana Islands. They don't post every earthquake. USGS, I would like a statement why. Why won't you do it, other than being too damn lazy? Too damn lazy. And Lucy, if you get a link to this video, if you receive a link to this video, be advised, several years ago I challenged you to a debate in Salt Lake City. I now live in North Carolina. Come on down to North Carolina, and I will invite the media to be here. I will invite the media to be here in North Carolina for a debate between you and I, to talk about earthquakes, to talk about seismic predictions or forecasting earthquakes. I would love to talk to you, Lucy. I would love to pick your brain and see what you're really thinking. Yes, I would. So right now, Lucy, I am challenging you to a debate here in North Carolina. You call me and we will come up with a mutual time and day where you can be here and we will debate. And I will make sure that your media and everyone else is here to partake in your debate with me. Right now, I am inviting you to North Carolina to talk about what is going on and why. And be advised, I will also invite other scientists. And we can all talk about earthquakes and earthquake forecasting. We can talk about the San Andreas Fault or any other earthquake activity that is happening. We'd like to talk to you about earthquakes happening over in the Brawley seismic zone in the Imperial Valley of California. We'd like to talk to you about earthquakes happening in San Diego County that you're not talking about. Earthquakes happening in Los Angeles that you're not talking about. Come on, Lucy. Get off your little fanny and let's talk. Let's bring it out to the public and find out exactly what is really happening. If you're brave enough, Lucy, let's do this. Let's do this. Don't hide behind your own skirt tails. Don't hide behind the USGS or Caltech or anybody else. Come to North Carolina and let's talk. Yeah, let's do this. Lucy Jones disagrees with a study that came out earlier this week about the San Andreas Fault and the danger inherent in the San Andreas Fault opening up. It's going to happen. The study says it's imminent. Lucy Jones disagrees. But all she can say is the sun comes up every day before a quake happens. That's stupid. That is so stupid it's not even funny. Okay? I can't believe she said that. Now, NCWQ Explorer left you a link to her video when she was talking about the study about the San Andreas Fault. I would urge everybody after this video is over to take up that link and go look at it. Rebecca did a great job. Rebecca did a great job. Now, let's talk about ParkField. I want to talk about ParkField. I left a couple images here of ParkField. This is an image of a older seismograph that is over in ParkField, California today. It's there. Something else. This is a map where ParkField is. Just so you know where it's at and why. Okay? There's something else here. Well, there's something besides those two things. Apparently, I took one of my images down and I'll bring it back up for you right now. Just a second, I'll get it for you. This is a ParkField cafe. You might want to say this is in downtown ParkField. Okay? ParkField is a town of maybe 18 residents. Okay? ParkField is a town, a small town in the San Joaquin Valley. Okay? ParkField is located in the Temblor Range, Temblor Range, between San Joaquin Valley and the Central Coast at an elevation of 1,529 feet high, above sea level. Mining and homesteading used to be prosperous activities in this community, but the mines were exhausted below economic recovery levels. Today, ParkField is a small town of about 18 people, most of whom are ranchers and farmers. There is a small tourism industry in the town based on equine horse-related activities, hunting, even a bluegrass music festival, and ParkField's unique earthquake history. ParkField is the earthquake capital of the world. I have been saying for years now it's the earthquake capital of California. It is the earthquake capital of the world. ParkField's claim to fame as the earthquake capital of the world has attracted geologists and earthquake enthusiasts for years. As you might drive into ParkField, you're going to cross over the San Andreas Fault. Let me show you that bridge right now. Right there. You're going to cross over the San Andreas Fault. Okay? You're going to go from the Pacific Plate, yes, the Pacific Plate, over onto the North American Plate. ParkField's section of the fault is the most studied spot on Earth for earthquakes, due to the frequency of earthquakes in the area. The frequent earthquakes are another gift to ParkField, as the pressure on the fault is regularly relieved, making the vast majority of the quakes there too small to feel. Tremors and microquakes, too small to feel. ParkField has traditionally had a fairly large earthquake of approximately 6.0 on the Richter scale, or larger. 6.0 to 7.5 every 22 years. The USGS saw this pattern and has since been keeping a watchful eye on ParkField since the last big quake in 1966, in hopes of using that data gathered in the area to predict earthquakes. Prediction of earthquakes. Not forecasting, but prediction. ParkField lies along the San Andreas Fault like I showed you. One of the longest and most active faults in the United States, which goes all the way down into southern Mexico, which appears in ParkField as a seasonally dry creek bed. A seasonally dry creek bed. Where have we heard that before? Earthquake faults in rivers and creeks. Rivers and creeks usually follow an earthquake fault. The fault marks the divide between the North American Plate and the Pacific Plate. There is a bridge crossing the creek with piers on either side that have shifted more than 5 feet relative to each other due to seismic creep since the bridge was constructed in 1936. The piers of the bridge have shifted 5 feet since 1936. Google satellite images show that the bridge, with which Simon Winchester described as bent. The bridge is bent, having cracked and patched pavement. It's been replaced since Winchester's book was published and a sliding joint installed. A sliding joint installed on the bridge because of seismic creep. However, the west piers of the bridge remain displaced to the north. The bridge sports signage announcing to drivers that they are crossing the plate boundary. Crossing the plate boundary. Since 1857, the town of ParkField has experienced a magnitude 6 or greater earthquake about every 22 years. In 1985, the USGS predicted that there would be a comparably sized earthquake in this community by 1993. But no such events came until September 28, 2004, when a 6.0 magnitude quake struck at 10:15 a.m. 10:15 a.m. daylight time. Pacific Daylight Time. ParkField is the most closely observed earthquake zone in the world. Scientists constantly measure the strain on rock bases, rock faces, and rock structures. They measure the strain in the rocks, the heat flow, microseismicity, and the geomagnetism around ParkField. The observations of the San Andreas Fault in ParkField are hoped to help scientists and faulting information gathered from ParkField that they may still be used someday to possibly issue earthquake predictions for major earthquakes along the San Andreas Fault and around the world. By observing the fault, they hope to be able to have earthquake prediction along the San Andreas Fault and other faults around the world. Now, since 1985, USGS has been working on a project known as a ParkField experiment. The ParkField experiment is a long-term research project on the San Andreas Fault. The experiment's purpose is to better understand the physics of earthquakes. The physics of earthquakes, what causes them, why they move, what actually happens on the fault and in the surrounding regions before, during, and after an earthquake. In 2004, work began just north of ParkField on the San Andreas Fault Observatory. The San Andreas Fault Observatory at a depth of nearly 2.5 miles deep, 4 kilometers deep. The goal of the observatory is to drill a hole nearly 2.5 miles, 4 kilometers deep into the Earth's crust across the San Andreas Fault. The specific target of the probe was a patch of fault known to generate sequences of repeating microquakes. That small section of the fault generates microquakes that do this right there. What you're seeing right there. Okay? Earthquake movement. That is a long distance of seismic energy that moved that monument. A lot of energy and time, years, have moved that monument apart from each other. They're looking at the parts of the fault that generate even micro earthquakes of around a magnitude 1.0 tremor. The drilling was completed in the mid-year of 2005. An array of sensors were installed to capture and record seismic activity that happened near this area. It is hoped that the observatory observations will provide insight into the source mechanisms of these small quakes, which can be scaled up in an effort to understand larger quakes. The drilling discovered a mineral called serpentinite. Serpentinite was found at the site of the origin of the 2004 6.0 earthquake. Serpentinite can transform into talc. Which is a very soft mineral, thus facilitating easy slippage of the plates. Now, we've talked about plates and fault zones and tectonic plates slipping, haven't we? All that energy that holds those plates and the faults in place like this, there's a lot of gunk and grime, biological material, sand and dirt that holds those plates and faults in place. When we have planetary alignments, there is an electromagnetic radiation energy that comes from planetary alignments, and that energy is transferred into the Earth's crust, all the way down into the core of the Earth. When we have coronal mass ejections, CMEs off the sun, the plasma radiation coming from the sun also penetrates the Earth's magnetosphere and ends up hitting the surface of the Earth. Again, heating up the fault zones and the plates, also heating up the core of the Earth. When that plasma radiation heats up the plates and heats up the earthquake faults, what happens? It enables those faults to more freely move. And that's what we're seeing here with the talc, the serpentinite. Okay? That mineral heating up, as well as the other biological material holding that plate or that fault in place, all of a sudden it allows those faults and the plates to more freely move. Okay? It's been hypothesized that seismic creep at Hollister is northeast of ParkField. It's hypothesized that the seismic creep at Hollister is also due to the presence of serpentinite, but no drilling has been done at Hollister to confirm that. It's only hypothesized right now. Some scientists are warning that areas around the San Andreas Fault could possibly see a strong earthquake as soon as this year. As soon as this year. That's why we're talking about it right now. According to the newly published study in the Journals of Frontiers in Earth Science and the study that Rebecca told us about earlier today, the ParkField section of the fault in Monterey County experiences earthquakes regularly about every 22 years, which means we're well past that, which means this could happen at any moment, literally. The last time the remote area was hit with an earthquake was 2004. We're now over 20 years, leading scientists to keep an eye on the seismic activity around ParkField and up and down the entire fault. After analyzing the data from weeks before the 2004 earthquake, scientists have seen some similar patterns that could indicate that another very strong earthquake is coming. A very strong earthquake is coming, guys. Scientists are looking for clues like strain on rocks or seismic wave patterns. Seismic wave patterns. They're saying in the study that there are hints that ParkField is entering the final phase of its quiet dormant period. ParkField is entering the final phase of its quiet dormant period. But again, Lucy Jones disagrees with it. She says that the sun comes up every day, before, during, and after a quake. The sun rises. She thinks she's funny. She says while the ParkField area could experience earthquakes of magnitude 6 or above, its remote location means the chance of impacting people or property is low. 18 people live in ParkField. Other people live outside ParkField on ranches and farms. It's an agricultural area. She doesn't take into account that seismic energy, the very strong 6.0 to 7.5 earthquake, will affect those people as well. Property and lives. Very strong 6.0, 6.5, 7.0, 7.5 energy can alter people's property and alter lives. We've seen that happen during the past 5 years since I have been on the air. So we are watching it very closely, as you have seen during the past while. We're keeping a very close eye on what's going on with the San Andreas Fault. Last night even we were talking about earthquakes in Los Angeles. Earthquakes in the greater Los Angeles area, all the way down to San Diego to the south and out to the east over in the Imperial County of California. Does anyone have any questions about what we're talking about? I want to make sure we answer every question and we make sure that everybody is understanding what we're talking about and understands the specific urgency to prepare for what's going to happen. It's overdue. The earthquake happening on the San Andreas Fault and the ancillary faults around Southern California is overdue. And everybody in this area, millions of people, need to prepare. Millions of people need to prepare. Okay? Now, Grace for Purpose is talking about Texas. Texas today has a good-sized swarm of earthquakes in western Texas. That's getting to be very typical. Toya, Texas, El Paso area, going up to Midland, Texas, and I am forgetting some other two other names of towns in that area. It's going. Southwestern Texas is going. It has nothing to do with the San Andreas Fault. However, it's moving. It's moving because they are fracking in that region. The oil and gas companies are fracking. Texas and Oklahoma, especially. Into Kansas as well. Richard Smith says times are changing fast. You're right, Richard, they are. And unfortunately, the agencies don't want to be honest. We've been tracking earthquakes west to east, north to south across the United States and Canada. We've been tracking earthquakes up in Alaska, over in the Kamchatka Peninsula, Japan, Taiwan, the Philippines, the Mariana Trench over in Guam. We've been tracking earthquakes in Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, the Solomon Islands, the Loyalty Islands, Vanuatu, Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, New Zealand, all the way down to Antarctica. Over in Africa, South America, Central America, Mexico, Europe, all over Europe. We talked about it last night. We showed you the earthquakes hitting. Folks, we have to know what's going on. It's imperative that we protect each other. We help each other. We prepare for what's going on. 1 year's Wrath is asking, is Arizona going to? Arizona has been having minor tremors. Most of their tremors in Arizona are as a result of earthquakes in California, Southern California, and also the volcanoes over in Arizona. 3 volcanoes over in Arizona. Several volcanoes in New Mexico. I believe there's 5 volcanoes over in Texas. About a year or so ago, we talked about volcanoes in Texas. We talked about earthquakes over on the New Madrid Fault. We talked about earthquakes in and around the East Coast. We talked about a huge volcano, a super volcano over in Lake Superior. If you guys go over to Google Earth, you're going to find a great big volcanic caldera right in the middle of Lake Superior. You're going to see it. We keep talking about earthquakes and volcanoes all over the earth, literally. They're happening fast and they're happening furiously. Everybody needs to prepare. There isn't any one place that's not going to be affected. Every place around the world needs to prepare for what's happening. It's not just earthquakes. It has not just been earthquakes. Volcanoes, rains, floods, fires, explosions. We've talked about it. Train derailments all over the United States, and now they are not reporting the train derailments that are happening. I knew this was going to happen. But the agencies responsible, including the railroad companies, are not reporting them. And speaking of the railroad, just so you know, what happened in Palestine, Ohio? What happened in Palestine, Ohio about a year and a half ago? A railroad train derailed in Palestine, Ohio. One of the hopper cars derailed and spilled a toxic chemical onto the surface of the earth. What happened? The railroad company and the people of Ohio, the authorities in Ohio, dug a deep trench so all that fluid from that railroad car could empty into the trench. What happened then? That fluid was dangerous. It was toxic. They had no business disposing of that chemical into a trench. Toxic chemical leaching toxins down into the earth. Unheard of. It should never have happened. But what else happened after that? They lit that chemical on fire as well, spreading the toxins into the air and the water. Spreading the toxins into the air and the water. The Ohio River and creeks and streams in Ohio. Going all the way into Philadelphia. Going all the way into Pennsylvania. This is what our authorities did. The EPA representative from the government came out, and he did almost nothing. He did almost nothing. The Secretary of the Transportation Secretary, I'm sorry, I messed up my words. The Transportation Secretary of President Biden also came there and said they were going to do everything to help. They have not done squat. They have not done squat. Let me tell you what happened. President Biden just barely left Palestine, Ohio within the last couple months. He visited there finally, long time after the crash of the train cars, the derailment of the train cars, and the lighting of the chemical to spread the chemical all over the central and eastern United States. He also did nothing. Guess what happened this week? The railroad just paid the citizens of Palestine, Ohio, millions of dollars. Did the government, the Biden administration, pay any of it? No. The government did not pay one dime. The U.S. government did not pay one dime. The Biden administration told the railroad to pay off the people of Palestine, Ohio. Several $millions. several million dollars. Unreal. The U.S. government still has not done squat. The Department of Transportation and the EPA have not done squat. Isn't it interesting how this happens and continues to happen? It's not just the USGS. Every dadgum department of the U.S. government doesn't do squat. Secretary Mayorkas, he is the Secretary of Homeland Security. He is responsible for securing the borders of the United States. He hasn't done squat. As a result of his not doing anything to secure the borders, he was impeached by the Congress of the United States. He was impeached by the United States Congress. And now the impeachment has also gone to the Senate. And yet Chuck Schumer, the head of the Democrat Party in the Senate, is being very defensive of not wanting to impeach Secretary Mayorkas. Although there's plenty of evidence of wrongdoing, crimes committed, Schumer doesn't want to do anything. Why? Because if they impeach Mayorkas, what's going to happen? It's going to come back at Biden, because Biden told Mayorkas not to do anything and open up the borders. It would come back and bite the Biden administration in the butt. It's a joke. I'm not joking around, but this is a joke. The entire world is looking at the United States as inept. Looking at the president himself as inept and not taking upon himself responsibility for anything. Not doing anything for anybody around the world. That's what's going on. That is what's exactly happening. Devin Cutmore is saying this is sad when they sent billions of dollars to you-know-where. Oh, heck yes. Heck yes. They have sent billions of dollars to Ukraine. They have sent billions of dollars to Ukraine. They sent billions of dollars before Joe Biden even came to the presidency. His own son, Biden's own son, brought in his father to put pressure on Ukraine to fire their attorney general in Ukraine because Biden didn't like him. Biden was interfering with the transfer of money into Ukraine. So Biden told the Prime Minister of Ukraine, get rid of him or you're not getting a dime. That was before Biden was even president. Ukraine told Biden that he was not the president, could not make decisions like that. And Biden says, oh yeah? Watch Obama. Because I will tell Obama not to give you a dime. All of a sudden, Ukraine fired their attorney general. And by the Biden family, including Biden's own niece, have proffered by money being funneled into Ukraine from the United States and back into the Biden family. That's what's happened. It's a fact. It's a fact. Money has been transferred to Ukraine and it's found its way back into the Biden's pockets. Fact. Fact. It's still ongoing. Even the president of Ukraine now is telling Congress and the president of the United States he wants more money. And he wants more money now. That's because the president of the United States is now indebted to Ukraine. This could blow up. This could blow up into a huge, grimy mess. Because the Biden family sold out the country. Fact. Fact. Now, NCWQ is talking about preparedness. That's a good thing. Having a map, and we've been talking about this in the past, you need to have an emergency preparedness kit. You need to have a map of various areas that you might go if you have to bug out and leave your home. You may have to bug out and leave your home. You need to have a map to show on the map, marked on the map, at least 3 routes that you could take to leave your house to your appropriate destination. You need those marked on the map. You also, before an emergency happens, you need to visit those 3 destinations, 3 separate and distinct destinations that you could go to, in case one of those destinations is already closed up before you get there. You need to have 3 separate routes, not the major arteries. Don't plan on using major thoroughfares to get to your destination to bug out to. Because if you do that, the police and or the National Guard may have a roadblock set up, and you won't get past that roadblock. You need to use surface streets to get out of Dodge. You need to have separate and distinct routes to get to where you want to go. You need 3 separate and distinct places that you could go to in case one of those places has been closed because already too many people have been there before you got there. You also need an emergency plan. An emergency plan written out on paper so that you have a plan to follow before, during, and after the event. It does not have to be an earthquake. But an earthquake is going to happen in California nonetheless. It's a fact. There's going to be many, many earthquakes up and down California. It's going to happen. We've talked about it. We've shown you why. But you need to have a plan. You also need to salt away money, cash. You need to salt away money. Put it in a plastic Ziploc bag. I saw a video earlier today that said put that money in a plastic Ziploc bag and put it in the freezer. Put your plastic bag in the freezer. Nobody's going to look for it in a freezer if somebody were to raid your home. Think about it. Think about it. Write a plan detailing every step that you're going to take before, during, and after an event. Whether it be an earthquake, heavy rain, flooding, and we've seen that happen, fires, tornadoes, hurricanes are coming up. I believe there's 11 named storms now. 11 named storms. And that's not all, folks. There's going to be explosions. There's going to be mass shootings, mass casualty events. Some people talked about this past week during the solar eclipse that the government was going to fly planes over the United States and drop chemicals on our ground and on anyone who is outside. That remains to be seen whether that actually happened or not. Yes, there are people that saw contrails in the sky and said that the chemicals were dropped earlier in the morning. That may have happened, but it can't be confirmed. If people start getting sick anytime soon, that will probably be a confirmation. But this is just another reason why you need to be prepared. We've talked about emergency preparedness plans. We've talked about emergency kits, including medical kits, all kinds of bandages, all kinds of medicines that you could take in case of an emergency. Training, first aid training, to be able to use your first aid and medical kits. You need to talk about your prescription medications. Make sure you have 90 days worth of your prescription medications. Make sure you have 90 days worth of prescription medications. How about seasoned clothes? Clothes for every season that we're in. That way you have plenty of clothes to wear in case of an emergency, and all you have to do is have those in your emergency kit and you bug out. You're gone. How about heavy-soled shoes? Good soled shoes, so if you have to get out and walk for any length of time, you can. Or if you have to go hiking through tough terrain, you can do so. Think about it. You need to have good soled shoes, not flats that you'd wear to an Emmy nomination, or flats, women, that you wear to Sunday school, or that you'd wear to any kind of church social, but good soled shoes that you could wear during an emergency situation. And not just for you, but your children as well, and your grandchildren. Make sure you take into account everybody in your family. Don't leave anybody out. And while we're talking about not leaving anybody out, how about your pets? I do not ever want to see again a dog, a cat, a squirrel, a hamster, a ferret, or any other pet animal that you may have in your home. I do not want to see them left behind. You leave them behind now, and you're probably going to end up in jail. In many cases all throughout the United States and around the world, you may end up going to jail if you leave your pets behind to fend for themselves. Don't do it. I myself got angry when some idiot left his dogs to tread water in a kennel outside before a hurricane. The dogs were treading water. They were rescued by Coast Guard boat personnel. They were taken to dry land and fed water and food because their parents left them to fend for themselves before a hurricane hit. That is wrong. I better not ever see anybody ever do that again. Never again. Make sure you take your pets with you. Make sure they have food. Make sure they have water. Make sure they have their favorite toy. Make sure they have a bed. Make sure they have a leash. Make sure your medical records for you and your pet are current. Make sure that all those medical records for you and your pets are in a plastic Ziploc bag so you have that information to pick up and go with if you have to leave your home. Make sure that's in your emergency preparedness kit. And don't forget water for you, your pets, and all of your children. My wife and I have 6 months worth of water for our puppy girls. They're 15, 16 years old. They're 17 years old now. We have water for them for 6 months. We have water for ourselves for at least 6 months. To shower with, to bathe off, to cook with, and to drink with. I am urging each and every one of you to have that as well. This is not Preparedness Friday, but I'm talking about it right now. Because we are going to face a very strong earthquake in California. And that earthquake is not just going to be in California at all. We're going to feel that earthquake across the United States. We're also expecting a major earthquake up in the Cascadia subduction zone region that's going to happen just west of Seattle and the Tacoma area. That's going to be a 9.0, 10.0 earthquake. There's also going to be a tsunami of anywhere from 50 to 150 feet high. Are you prepared? That seismic energy is going to hit in that area. It's going to transfer into Alaska. It's going to transfer all the way south to Mexico. It's going to make the San Andreas Fault ring. San Francisco is going to be destroyed. Santa Barbara is going to be destroyed. Los Angeles is going to be destroyed. San Diego is going to be destroyed. And parts of North America or northern Mexico as well. Are you ready? Are all of you ready? Because that earthquake is also going to shake the entire continent. The entire North American continent. Canada, the United States, and Mexico. It could shake the world. It could disrupt the world. I'm telling you. Wilson says, which is first? Not which is first. What is most important to you? What is most important to you? Johnny Roush is saying clean, able water filter with a squeeze bag, I think it is. That might help you. That might help you. There are water purification methods that I haven't even talked about tonight. And I'm not even going to get into them right now. But you need to have that as well. My wife and I have labored to have power as well. Solar power. You need to think about that as well. This past year, we saw power companies shutting down. We saw power companies not able to provide power to residents in their power area. The power grid going down. The power grid's being sabotaged. Are any of you ready for that as well? What are you doing to help yourselves? Texas just 2 years ago had a major winter storm that shut down most of Texas. Shut it down. Their windmills that had been supplying power to their power grid stopped operating because of the ice. Some of their machinery also shut down because of the cold and the ice. The power grids in Texas shut down. Some people died. Some people got very cold. Are you ready for any of that? It can happen again. This summer, the electrical grid could go down with people using too much electricity. What are you going to do then? Or the government could just shut it down. Yes, you might say I could be a conspiracy theorist. I'm not a major conspiracy theorist, though. I'm just trying to give you scenarios so that you will know that it can happen to you. That you can know that it is reality. So that you can protect yourselves and your families. That's why we're talking about it. That's exactly why we are talking about it. Linda Covington is talking about nugs. If you don't know what she's talking about, it's spelled backwards. It is spelled backwards. You need to have seeds for your nugs. Make sure you have every option open to you to protect yourselves and your family. Every option open to you to protect your children and your family. And I understand people don't like nugs. What are you going to use to protect your family when the bad guys come knocking, wanting to take whatever you have away from you? How are you going to protect yourselves? Are you just going to let them wipe you out so you have nothing, even though you may have prepared in some way to help yourselves, and the bad guys come in and just take it from you? What are you going to do then? Okay? I'm talking about physical protection of yourselves. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Lena Villicano says, you think with 4 decades of experience, my Dunn would have more to offer, rather came in spending like a kid in a candy store. I agree. I totally agree. We need to prepare for ourselves because nobody's going to help us. Gas prices are going through the roof. Our gas prices here have gone up 30 cents in a week. The gas prices here in Morganton, North Carolina have gone up 30 cents in a week's time period. 30 cents in a week's time period. It's going to go up all over the United States and all over the world. Are you ready for that? Don Patoka says bows and arrows are on. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've got lessons to teach someone about bows and arrows. Absolutely. Demon Catman just talked about a 4.5 over at Mindanao Island, Philippines. Over off the northeast side of Mindanao, Philippines, there have been 4 earthquakes today. Just several months ago, Mindanao, Philippines was hit by a 9.0 earthquake. That area today is still being hit with aftershocks. And they're going to have aftershocks off the northeast coast of Mindanao, Philippines for years, not just months. It's happening. Earthquakes up and down through the Philippines. Earthquakes also hitting over off the northeastern shore of Taiwan. More earthquakes happening over in the Sea of Japan, over off the peninsula of Noto Peninsula in Japan, after another 8.40 earthquake hit there, killing hundreds of people and injuring more hundreds of people. We've seen it happen. It's happening all over the world. It's happening in the Middle East. It's happening down in Antarctica. It's happening in Canada. It's happening in the United States. It's happening in Mexico. It's happening in South America, New Zealand, Australia, Japan. It's happening in China. It's happening all over. We're seeing minor, small, large and major earthquakes happening around the globe. We're seeing volcanoes erupt. What are you able to do to protect yourselves and to help yourselves? Nobody's going to help you. Nobody's going to help you. Maybe you have friends that are like-minded. The more people you have to protect each other, the better off you're going to be. Think about getting together with other people like minds. They're willing to help you. That's another way to survive. Johnny Roush is right. Meet anyone, it's codename Ron. Codename Ron. That's fine. You can use my name. Maybe that's a good thing. You need to be prepared, guys. You need to be prepared. You need to be prepared now. The time is getting short. Things are going to get very, very rough. Texas ladies here in the chat right now saying $3.20 for unleaded gas today. It was $3.36 today where I live. It's gone up 32 cents in a week. It was $3.04 earlier this week. Now it's $3.36 today. Unreal. Unreal. Do not let your gas get below a half a tank. If it gets there, make sure you top it off. Make sure you have at least a full tank of gas at any time. That way, if crap hits the fan and you have to leave, you've got a full tank of gas to leave on. If you only have a half a tank and you get caught in a traffic jam, you're going to get stuck because you don't have the gas to go anywhere. Make sure you have a full tank of gas at all times. NCW Explorer says, no idea what price gas is today, but I stayed home with a headache. Rebecca, please, take care of your kids and you. It's important. They're counting on you. They love you too. Everybody, you need to get prepared. Miss Cookie says $3.79. It's going to go through the roof because Biden wants to make sure there's no gas available so he'll be able to sell electric cars. It's all politics. It's all politics. When he took over 3.5 years ago, guess what happened? He shut down all the major pipelines here in the United States. Prior to him coming in, we were self-sufficient here in the United States for the first time in decades. Now Biden's got in and we're hunting for gas, begging to buy gas from anybody, especially the Middle East. And those people are our enemies. Okay? Folks, you need to be prepared. You need to be prepared on all levels. Johnny Rouse says Verde Valley, Arizona. You need to be prepared there as well. Rebecca says, no, they don't. They give me a headache. Ha ha ha. They might. But folks, you need to be prepared. Linda Covington says outright robbery. I agree. It's outright robbery. Don Patoka, one of my mods, one of my best friends is here in the chat, says, have you ever lived with nothing for more than a week? If you didn't, good luck. It's a forgotten art, period. It's a forgotten art to stretch out what you have, whether it be something or nothing. It's a forgotten art. We need to take care of ourselves and our families, brothers and sisters. You need to be on the ball here. You need to be getting with the program. Kenneth Oliver says, wait till an EMP and the grid goes down. That could happen. That could happen. Iran is threatening the United States right now. Iran is a threatening to attack Israel, but it's also threatening to attack the United States. And we have sleeper cells here in the United States because Uncle Joey let everybody and their dog cross the border, hoping to gain votes for the Democratic Party, hoping to gain votes for the Democratic Communist Party. We have terrorists here in the United States, whether anyone wants to admit it or not. The President of the United States himself let terrorists come into the United States, and if they do anything, Joe Biden is responsible. Plain and outright simple. Okay? That's a fact. Diane Kelman says she can remember back around 1978, you could only buy gas on certain days. 1972, guys. 1972. It was an odd and even license plate number where you could be allowed to buy gas. And gas stations ran out of gas. How do I know? I worked for a 7-Eleven store that had gas, and we ran out of gas many times. We ran out of gas many times. I had a kid threaten my life with a baseball bat, and I took that bat away from him. And then he went crying back to his parents, and his parents came to see me, begging for that ball bat back. And I said, no way in hell, because he will be back in the store threatening my life again. No way. I remember those days. I remember it because I had people threatening my life. You sell me gas or I'm going to get you. Oh, really? Go ahead, make my day. Yeah. Go ahead, make my day. Do you guys have any more questions for me? I've rattled my jaws so long today, maybe we need to have a question and answer period real quick. I'm willing to answer questions, guys. It's imperative that we answer questions and help each other. If we don't help each other, who will? Who will help us? Nobody. Nobody. That's why Emergency Management Associates exists. We help each other. We stand with each other. We stand with each other. That is a fact. We don't do it for personal gain. We stand with each other. We help each other. Richard Smith says, Old Joe's playing the bagpipes. Yes, I agree. He's playing something. But he's not playing with a full deck either. Why do I have to say that? Old Joe doesn't play with a full deck. He doesn't. Old Joe doesn't have a clue. He doesn't have a clue. If he did, we wouldn't be where we're at. We would not be where we're at. Sad. Sad day. Anybody have any other questions for me? I'm willing to go anywhere with you. I want to help you. I want to help you. That's my only reason of being here, is to help each one of you. That's what we're here for. better reason than to help each other. Audrey saying, check your texts, Ron. More news from Iran. Oh, I will. Oh, I will. We'll talk more about that tonight. Race for purpose hard to find. Looking for walking death camps. I agree, hard to find because everybody wants them. Everybody wants to protect what they have. Folks, it's getting late. We've now been on the air 2 hours. I want to end this evening with a devotional like I've been doing for a while now. We've been talking a lot about living Christ-like lives. We want to talk again tonight about living a Christ-centered life. Our lives should be centered with exactness in Christ if we are really truly to find joy and peace in our lives today. We need to be centered with exactness in Christ if we're willing to truly find true joy and peace in our lives. The world in which we live is putting great pressure on good people everywhere, to lower or even abandon their standards of a righteous living. However, despite the evils and temptations that surround each one of us each and every day, we can and should find a true joy today in living a Christ-centered life. Centering our lives on Jesus Christ and His gospel will bring us stability and will bring us happiness to our lives and to the lives of our family. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in friends of mine's lives, in the lives of their families. I've seen it happen in my own life as well. Years ago, there was a book written by a man named Spencer W. Kimball. It was called Stand Ye in Holy Places. No, it wasn't Kimball. It was, it was Hinckley. He wrote a book called Stand Ye in Holy Places. I've talked about this before. Each of us needs to find a place in our lives where we find that we can stand in holy places and truly feel like we are living a standard of a Christ-centered life. We need to do that. No matter what we do, whether we are making and selling pottery, or we're helping someone else be successful, or we are just helping other people get by. We need to stand in holy places. We need to stand uprightly before the Lord. We need to tell the truth. We need to make sure we tell the truth. Truth will always win out. Truth will always win out. Some people say they don't have talent. Other people say they've never been trained. It doesn't matter. Each and every day, we can better ourselves and help other people also do the same. We can have a Christ-centered life and be successful in doing that. The most important reason for failure was not to do anything. Not being centered in the wheel, not living a Christ-centered life. That is a reason for failure. We don't want to fail. We don't want to fail. We need to have a professional's perspective. We need to keep in the center of our life and keep our eye on the ball. I can do this. Remember the words, I can do this, or I did it. I can do this, or I did it. Things may not be perfect, but we can make them better. I can do this. The outcome when we first try it might not always have the best result, but you did it, and you got better. You became successful because you centered your thoughts on the center of the wheel. You centered your thoughts on Christ. The world in which we live is similar to even a potter's spinning wheel. A potter is someone who makes pottery. And the speed of that wheel is increasing. Like clay on the potter's wheel, we must be centered as well. If our clay is off center, it's going to fly apart because of the speed of the wheel. We must be centered. Our core, the center of our lives, must be Jesus Christ and His gospel. Living a Christ-centered life means we learn about Jesus Christ. We learn about Jesus Christ and His gospel. And then we can follow His example and keep His commandments with exactness. The ancient prophet Isaiah said, quote, "But now, O Lord, Thou art our Father. We are the clay, and Thou art our potter, and we all are the work of Thy hand." Unquote. If our lives are centered on Jesus Christ, He can successfully mold us into what we need to be in order to return to live with our Heavenly Father in His kingdom. The joy that we experience in this life will be in direct proportion to how well our lives are centered on the teachings and the example and the atoning sacrifice of our Savior Jesus Christ. Brothers and sisters, I was born into a multi-generational family. I had a grandmother that loved us. I had aunts and uncles and parents. I had cousins. And for the most part, we lived in a gospel-centered life, with Jesus Christ being the chief cornerstone of the gospel. It wasn't until I served a mission for my church as a young man that I realized the incredible positive impact that the gospel of Jesus Christ had in my life and my family's life. I had the support of aunts and uncles. I had support of my brothers and sisters, my parents, and my grandmother until she passed away. I then had the support of my mother's mother and my step-grandfather we called Grandpapa. We loved him. He also loved and supported each one of us in our family. I have experienced the Savior's blessings in my life and in the life of my family. My family has not always been perfect, But I have been blessed in my life as a result of my obedience to the commandments of God. And I am asking for that same thing for you. There is a verse in Matthew that reflects the process that people who are converted to the gospel of Jesus Christ experience. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field, which a man found and covered up. Then in his joy he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. Brothers and sisters, we can be like that very man, selling all that we have to becoming more like Jesus Christ. And I bear you my testimony that when we do and we lead Christ-centered lives, that we can be the kind of people we want to be. And we can be successful. We can be successful. We can be prepared. But we need to get our lives in line with the Savior's. We need to get our lives in line with the Savior's. In order to receive the joy associated with finding the treasure spoken of by Jesus in that parable of the treasure hidden in a field, we can do that. We can pay the price in our lives to be successful. We can do that. We can also help our brother and sister, no matter where they're at in their lives. We can bring them along with us so that we have our family together in heaven when we leave this earth. I know that's the case. I know that is the case. I can go and do the things that the Lord has commanded me, because I know that the Lord doesn't give any commandments unto the children of men, save he prepare a way that they might accomplish the thing that the Lord has commanded him. That's in the Scriptures. Brothers and sisters, I may be filled with joy most of the time, but I want to be filled with joy all the time. I want to live the commands of God and not be cast away at the last day. As the Scripture says, I will give up all that I possess. Yea, I will forsake my kingdom that I may receive this great joy. Amazingly enough, in contrast to a king in the Scriptures, he gives up one half of his kingdom to spare his life. The king there was willing enough to give up his entire kingdom, that he might receive the joy that comes from understanding, accepting, and living the gospel of Jesus Christ. Each of us can do that. Each of us can be converted to the gospel, accepting, finding, accepting, and living the gospel of Jesus Christ. What follows is a reflection of the same, a reflection of Christ in our lives. Brothers and sisters, I've seen people that cast off and didn't have goals. They had gotten away from living Christ-like lives, and they did not even realize how far they were off the beaten path. But we can bring them back. We can bring ourselves back. Brothers and sisters, I know that prayers can be ultimately answered. I feel very blessed because my prayers for direction and sacrifice in my life I found purpose in my life. And my prayers have ultimately been answered with the fullness of the gospel of Jesus Christ brought into my life. I know there is a purpose, and I have that purpose in my life. The plan of happiness for each one of us is real, and each one of us can receive the joy in our lives. I know that. I have seen it. I have experienced that. Brothers and sisters, I urge each and every one of you to prepare. Find out which is good and true in your life. Be prepared. Find the gospel of Jesus Christ in your life. If you need help, let me know. I'm willing to help each and every one of you. I have not arrived, but I'm on the path. I'm on the covenant path to getting to where I need to be with my family and with all of you. May God bless you and God keep you in the palms of his hands. I bear you my witness today, this night, that we too can find that peace and happiness, that true joy in our lives if we choose to live a Christ-centered life. And I bear you that testimony now in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Folks, if anything else happens tonight, we'll be back on the air to tell you about it as soon as the information happens. Other than that, tomorrow is Friday. We'll be back on the air approximately 6 p.m. Friday night tomorrow for Emergency Management Associates Friday Preparedness Day. I ask the Lord to bless you. I love each and every one of you. I love each and every one of you. I love our EMA family. We are truly a family. I love our moderators. I love each and every one of you, brothers and sisters. You guys are the glue that holds our family together. We love you. Each and every one of you, us loves each and every one of you. God bless you. May God protect you and keep you until we can meet again. God be with you until we meet again. We will see you tomorrow night for Friday Preparedness Day.